Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks for stopping by today. I'm excited to share with you another project using kitchen sink stamps. And this is a greeting card which is pretty basic but has a lot of little extras added onto it. You've got the card with the stamped image, and then I used embossing folder for this background, which has a embossed oval. It has a little ribbon, and I'm just learning how to tie bows like that to put them on cards. And it has a sentiment, and the sentiment comes from this sentiment, which is let's see here, Crafter's Companion, and the sentiment says just for you. So I was able to put that at the bottom, and then it makes a pretty card, I think. So we're going to go ahead and make a couple of these using the kitchen sink stamp Bluebonnets. Okay, this is what it looks like, Bluebonnets. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. I want to move my nice card out of the way so I don't mess it up. And I'm going to pull the Misty over to begin stamping. Go ahead and put my embossed paper here at the bottom corner. We'll go ahead and use the magnets. I think I'll grab a couple pieces of tape too. I like to play it safe, you know. So I really enjoy using kitchen sink stamps. I like the multi-dimensional look of them. I think that some of their stamps have such a realistic look that when you look at them, you're not sure if you're looking at a photograph of a flower or a stamped image of a flower, or a guitar or a stamped image of a guitar. So I'll put a link here at the end of this video to some of my other projects that I made with kitchen sink stamps. When you get your stamps from Kitchen Sink Stamps, it has a guide. This is a color recipe. So this helps you to pick out colors that you could use for stamping and the stamping order. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see this. This one calls for some Memento inks, and I have a lot of Memento inks. This is something that I have been sort of getting, the different Memento colors. I have a lot of them. So this one uses Paris Dusk and Summer Sky for the flower, as well as a little bit of Dandelion. So let's go ahead, and we're going to start with number 4, which is the darkest. When you stamp on these, it stamps out the darkest. So I have them here in this little packet, and I have also on the back of them the number down of the stamp. So this is number 4. Okay, so that's where we're going to get started. And I want to look at my original card just to make sure that I'm putting this in a pretty good spot. I want to leave enough room down at the bottom for the sentiment and the bow. So that's why I just want to make sure I'm, doing it right here. All right. Making sure. Or you can start with the leaves first if you want to, but I just decided I would start with the flowers first today. All right. Okay, whoops. All right, so we're going to use Paris Dusk. Having a Misty or other stamping platform makes it smooth, I guess, easier when you are using the multi-layer stamps, but it is not by any means necessary. I have some smaller sets that I have played with where I just use a stamp block, so you could use that as well. Okay, I don't know whether it's going to make a good impression because I have those big magnets in there. So I'm going to take this magnet out just to make sure that I'm making sure that I'm getting the ink on the paper. Yep, that looks good. Now the second layer, which I have, is number 3. So we're going in backwards order. We're starting from the highest number or the darkest image to the lightest. All right, so that would be number 3, and it also uses the same color, but it's stamped off once. So I'll get it lined up here And I'll explain to you what I mean by being stamped off once. With kitchen sink stamps, sometimes they stick to my fingers because they're so, you know, they're high quality polymer stamp. They really stick well. And so I just used a pencil eraser to help me line things up. A lot of times if I try to use my fingers, I blotch it up. I bump it or do something silly like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close my door, grab my, see how it's moving a little bit, the paper, but that's okay. As long as I get it right back down that corner, we should be good to go. I'm going to grab the Paris Dusk again. This time though, I'm going to stamp it off before so I have some scrap paper here. Okay, this piece of scrap paper is going to go right on top of that, so I can stamp it off once. Okay, now I want to go ahead and stamp it onto the image that we're creating. Okay, very good. I'm just using a microfiber cloth to wipe off the ink in between. Now, step number 3, which is also stamp number 2, is going to be in a different color. It's called Summer Sky by Memento. So I'm on number 2. I'm going to go ahead and get that lined up here. Okay, so we've got our Summer Sky. It's a very light blue. It's hardly even noticeable on the stamp. Okay, I'm going to have to move that magnet because I can tell I'm not getting a very good contact. There we go. That fills in nicely in the background. And then the final color is Dandelion, and this will only be stamped on the outer edges. And I'll show you what I mean. Once I get it lined up, I will show you what I mean here. I know it's probably hard for you to see, but once you have a system going with this, you can line these up quite easily. You know what to look for. You know that there are certain marks on the stamp that are places for that. Okay, so this says to use Dandelion, but to only stamp tips. It says Dandelion ink, tips only, stamp off one time. Okay, so tips only. So when I think about the tips, I think about the outer edge of the stamp. To me, that's what a tip is. So I think I'm doing that right. And I'll just take my, what's nice about this is it has a nice angled tip to it. And I'm just going around the edge, getting the tips. And I'm only using the tip of the ink. Okay, we're going to go around and we're going to stamp that off once. Okay, it creates sort of like a, I don't know, like a little bit of a shadow. And I'm going to do it one more time. But I'm not going to stamp off. I'm just going to go straight there. I didn't put a lot of ink on though, just a little bit. I guess when you look at Bluebonnets, they have like a yellow background to them. I have to say I'm not that familiar with the flower Bluebonnets. I mean, I am familiar with flowers and what they look like, but that one I'm not as familiar with. Okay, so we've got our flower stamped. And I wanted to show you also this nice guide that goes on the front of the stamps, so you know what they're supposed to look like and gives you an idea of what color to use. So that's really helpful too. Now we're going to move on to these leaves down here. And I'm going to start with number 1. And the reason I start with number 1 is because I need to have a point of reference to make sure that I am putting the stamp in the right direction. And if I use number 3, this is a 3-step one, I kind of don't have a very good sense of where I need to put it. So I'm going to go ahead and look. See, right off the bat, I had it upside down. This is why I'm saying you have to really double check. And I'm going to put it, I'm just trying to, you know, eyeball up how I did the one before and what position I put it in. Okay, that looks about right. And the color we're using for this is New Sprout. It calls for Pearl Time, but I don't have that color. So we're going to use New Sprout. Maybe if I put that magnet down there, I'll have better luck. Okay, go ahead with some New Sprout here. And on my notes, it says to do it twice. So I'm going to do it twice because New Sprout is quite light in color. And you can tell here where I stamped it, you know, it's not the most robust looking. Once I go over it again, though, it'll have a much better view. It'll look better. There you go. You can see that. Okay, that's the New Sprout. Okay, and then the second step, I'm going to use bamboo leaves. So I can put number 1 back. And put it back in the right spot. And go ahead and grab number 2, bamboo leaves. Once you have the first one down, it's pretty easy then to go ahead and line your second, your third up. The color recipe calls for the same color, Pearl Time, Thyme, but I don't have that color. Okay, this will give you an idea of how I straighten things up and how I'm just looking along the edges here to make sure that everything's lined up. There you go. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'll go a little bit higher so we're not so close. This one is bamboo leaves. It's a little bit darker of a green. Okay. Isn't that beautiful? I just think that looks awesome. That is so pretty. You can just see the color number 1 peeking through to the second color. Okay, so the last part of this leaf calls for the color of Paris Dusk. Well, Paris Dusk is that blue color that we used up above here on our flowers. But when you put it on this stamp, it gives the appearance of sort of like the veins of the leaves of the leaves, how it has veins in it. So I think it's kind of a nice look, a nice effect. Just want to make sure I got this lined up right, folks. I keep bumping it the wrong way. Sorry. You have to really concentrate. At least I do anyways. I want to get this right because this is dramatic. Once it's set. Okay. All right. Paris Dusk. This is that real deep blue. There you go. You can see how it kind of made like the lines of the leaves outlined. That's really cool. Such a cool set. Okay. And then above the leaves would be the stem of the flower. And the stem has just two. It has a number 1 and a number 2. Okay, for the stems, I stamped number 1 first using New Sprout. I'm just looking at my notes. That's the thing, when you go ahead and make your project, you might want to take notes. So if you're using, you know, you can use whatever inks that you have. Oh, you know what? I think I kind of put this up too high and this down too low, because I'm looking at my sample and this actually goes all the way up to the, so what I'll end up doing is putting in some more leaves to fill this in. So just bear with me, folks. It's going to be okay. All right, so this comes down a little bit. And that's going to be New Sprout. And New Sprout is that very faint color green, so I'm going to stamp twice with New Sprout. And then number 2 uses Bamboo Leaves. You can see I also wrote the numbers on the stamped images so that I know the order. To make sure that I'm using the right stamp in the right order. Excuse me. Okay, so it's looking really nice. Because this was my user error, I put the leaves a little bit low. Should have went up just a little bit higher with those leaves. I'm going to go ahead in and take number 2 leaf, and I'm going to do another layer here with number 2 and number 1. I mean number 2 and number 3. I'm going to skip number 1. So this is just going to fill in, folks. Normally you wouldn't do this, but because I put it down too low, I have to. Okay, so Bamboo Leaves, I believe. Yes, that's what I used. Okay, and then after that we have the Paris Dusk. So I'll put number 2 back and I'll grab number 3. Look at that. Even with all that's going on here, I could still find my spot and line that up well. It's pretty impressive. These stamps just are so nice. So going in with the Paris Blue right over top of what I just stamped. So now we have a better foliage there instead of just plain. Okay. Okay, next is the butterfly, and the butterfly is so sweet. So there's three parts to the butterfly, and I'm going to put the butterfly right on top of the flower. I'm going to put some magnets down here. Okay, I don't know where my other magnet got to, but that's okay. I'm going to just angle this butterfly so that his little legs are touching down. Now I'm using the 3rd stamp, and it says to use black, but I'm using brown Distress ink. In my sample that I showed you, my prototype card, I used that, and I like the way it looked. It fills in the butterfly veins really nice without overpowering with black. So that's that. That's number 3. I'm sorry if I said that was number 1. That's actually stamp number 3. Let me put my stems back away here so I don't lose them. Okay, so now I need 2. 2 is right here. Because this is so tiny, I definitely use the eraser to help me line this up. And, you know, I'm lining this up and I'm not even looking directly overhead, you guys. I'm sort of off to the front of the picture here. I'm certainly not directly overhead, yet I'm still able to line this up with great accuracy. That's because of the way the stamps are made. Okay, so this is layer 2 and it gets rhubarb stalk. Well, geez, let me get the stamps out of the way here. What the heck? Oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had that laying there. Whoops. All right, rhubarb stalk. Okay, my goodness, this is going to be the video with the bloopers, isn't it? I guess you have to have one of those every once in a while. I pulled the stamp right off of the cardstock here. Okay, resetting now. Rhubarb stalk, finally. Yes, there we go. It's a real pretty red, like the color of rhubarb. So pretty. And then the final color is Potter's Clay, which is a real pretty orange. So let me go ahead and get my final piece of butterfly here. My final butterfly stamp. And this is going to be stamped using Potter's Clay, as I said. Okay. Potter's Clay. There we go. Now we have our butterfly. Okay, now we are going to remove this from the MISTI, get this out of the road, and we're going to adhere this to our blue cardstock. So I have this navy blue cardstock. Okay, and it's just going to have just a very, very hardly any at all border. And I could put a bow on it like I did the other one. And this one, I think I'm going to put the sentiment, "Get well," because Linda, who's organizing this, said that you could send any type of card. They're going to be auctioned. And then I think I might put the bow in there. I'm thinking it might. I might have to trim it a little bit. But I can even put the sentiment up a little bit higher on this one. I have a little bit more space. And no, I think that looks nice the way it is. I also have a light blue ribbon that I could wrap around the panel. Let me see how that looks, and then we'll decide. Okay. Could take some ribbon and just have it at the bottom here. And have "Get well" right behind it. Yeah, I think that would look nice. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Let me grab my scissors. Okay. Nice. I'll grab my tape runner. Sorry for the reach over there. We'll start with getting it tucked under. Getting it to lay flat for a second. There we go. Oh my goodness. I cannot get my tape runner to cooperate today. Of course, I am going upside down. That might have something to do with it. Okay, so then we're going to adhere this with glue before we put the final touches on it. So I'm going to go ahead and put some glue down all over the back of this. It's nice and it's very textured because of the way it was embossed. Okay. I will post this video and include links to where you can purchase stamps from Kitchen Sink Stamps. They are super nice, cool stamps. I'll also have a link to some cards that I've made using Kitchen Sink Stamps, so that'll be included on here. And that way you can check it out yourself, see if there's anything that catches your eye. And if you do get some, I'd love to see what you make with them. And then down here, we're just going to have our Get Well, which I think that looks nice. I think it makes a nice Get Well card. My prototype cards had Just For You as the sentiment. But I like changing it up a little bit. They don't have to all be exactly the same when you're making cards in a series. Okay, so I'm going to put the prototype right beside it. You can see the difference there. I think they both turned out really nice. Whoops, let me shut this. Even though I had made my leaves a little bit too low, I'm still really pleased with the result, and I'm really pleased with how this looks. And this was this I think makes a nice statement because it has the embossed folder. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them below in the comment section. You can find me on my blog, which is thehopefulcrafter.blogspot.com. My Instagram account is Schultz551, and my email is thehopefulcrafter@gmail.com. Again, these cards, I have 2 more that I'm going to make. These cards are going to Linda Caraffle Lock Designs. It's a fundraiser for WonderWorks Children's Museum, which is in California. These cards will be put in a charity auction. So it's so exciting. So exciting that my cards are going to be seen by folks out in California and hopefully admired, and hopefully somebody will buy them, and the money will go towards the museum. So thank you very much for watching today. Stay tuned for more videos, and have a very hopeful day. Bye-bye.